You all set?
Oh, I just turned it on.
All set? I'd like to welcome everyone to the first meeting for the month of July. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for pastor.
Oh, Heavenly Father, we come before you and we thank you, Lord, for this day. We thank you for the rain that it showers the crops. Yet, Father, we pray for sunshine to dry out the crops for harvest. We also pray, dear Lord, for tonight, just for people to be safe on the roads. Bless the first responders as they work in these conditions. We pray, Father, also for the small business owners in this community, just during this economic times. We pray, Father, that you would just sustain them and bless them in these times. And we also pray, Father, for these people in this room tonight, that you would give them wisdom as they vote and as they make decisions. We pray, Father, that you would allow them to have wisdom of answering questions in all things. Bless this night. It's in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, pastor. For 4 minutes.
I'd like to make approval of minutes for a regular town board meeting on Thursday, June 22nd, 2023.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Aye.
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 There's a motion for approval of minutes for a special town board meeting on Thursday, June 29th, 2023.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Town clerk's report.
Total state $4,403. Total local shares submitted $4,102.10. Total non-local revenues $303.
The supervisor's report, in keeping with what we've done the past several months, we'll be doing that at the second meeting of the month. Payment of claims.
Payment of claims. General Fund A, $23,589.94. General OVB, $1,114.02. Highway Fund DA, $3,072.86. Highway OVDB, $5,379.86. Lighting District number 1, $292.99. Lighting District number 2, $562.55. Lighting District number 3, $257.83. Planning Board, $365. Sewer District number 1, $1,045.12. Sewer District number 2, $4,555.21. Sewer District number 3, $697.74. Trust and Agency, $406.95. Total transfers, $41,390.07.
Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Committee reports. Bill, what do you have for us?
Well, since the last meeting, we've replenished our stockpile of rubble. Pretty much used up everything we had left over. Patching from this, using up on patches for the winter. Run all our stone in town to do our chip seal. The contractor's supposed to be here tomorrow or Monday. Weather providing to chip seal the roads, so we're motor paved last year and we're about 2/3 of the way through the mowing. First time. That's about it.
You have any washouts with the rain we've had?
And you're happy with your new guy?
Not yet.
Happy New Year, new me.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, it's good.
Not yet.
No, it's working out. Nice, young
Good.
guy willing to get his hands dirty.
Good.
Not afraid to put a shovel in his hand.
Good, good.
No, should be okay.
Great.
Okay. Okay, public safety, I do not have anything to report new this meeting. Parks Committee, right now, we've got the youth program going on. It started on Monday and it's been quite well attended. In spite of the poor weather early in the week, on Monday, there was still quite a crowd. So that's gone quite well. Sewer, you got anything for us, Andy?
Nothing much, just Brunswick Electric and MCJ. We're down to take down the radio antennas because of the geography and didn't work. And they were down there to try to fix the control panels they were having issues with. So that's it. That's all I got. I don't know if Bill Brown's on.
You have Bill Brown on tonight? No, okay. Mike, anything on IT?
We did have a broadband meeting last week. It's basically a listen and try to get input. We're hoping that we can start getting movement, and I guess we're talking to somebody who was a subcontractor who was in, and it looks like we may be getting some movement on addressing the residences that need to have broadband provided.
I will
Crossing the
mention,
fingers.
I had sent an email out and I don't remember if I copied you in or not. Sheldon Road, 3 addresses over there. We had a quote from Charter Spectrum for roughly $110,000 to serve those 3 addresses. I spoke to Midtel. They've got service just over the Schoharie County line. They gave us a rough number in the mid-30s to do that. That's a rough number. We don't have an actual proposal, so we have to wait until we see an actual proposal from them. And they said they've got a lot of work, so they're not going to have that to us right away.
And I guess
But-
they are looking at improvements to Alexander Road.
Yeah, they did one connection, I know.
Yeah.
And
Who was one of the unserved?
ran into some, but
Yeah, one of
They
the
did do it.
unserved, I know the number has changed multiple times on that for the one resident that is off the road.
yeah,
Okay,
should be done now.
okay, good. Before we go to the business meeting, anything else?
Nope.
Okay,
Mike,
business meeting,
make a motion to hire Nathan Smith as a motor equipment operator, whereas the town highway superintendent has recommended that the town board hire Nathan Smith as a motor equipment operator, a non-competitive class position at an hourly rate of $25.45 per hour as provided for in the collective bargaining agreement. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby approves the hiring of Nathan Smith as a motor equipment operator, a non-competitive class position at an hourly rate of $25.45 per hour, subject to a satisfactory background check and any other requirements of the collective bargaining agreement.
Second.
Just added
Sorry.
and as amended by the MLA.
And as amended by the MOA.
Yep.
And maybe on the first line, correct the spelling on superintendent.
Oh, okay.
Superintendent.
Good place.
do we have a second on it?
Second.
Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Aye.
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 Aye,
Motion to accept the resignation of Colin Farley as a court security officer.
I'll second that.
any discussion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Aye.
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 Aye,
Motion to appoint Christopher Avery as a court security officer. Whereas the town board of the town of Dwaynesburg, the town wishes to employ Christopher Avery in the position of security guard to provide security services at the town Dwaynesburg Town Justice Court. And whereas the town board previously approved in December of 2022, the attached form employment agreement to be used to memorialize each security guard's terms of employment with the town. And now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the town supervisor to hire Christopher Avery as town justice court security guard in accordance with the terms of the attached employment agreement and to sign the employment agreement on behalf of the town.
And I just second that.
Any discussion?
I just have one question. Which judge interviewed him?
My understanding, both judges,
Both judges said, okay, just.
that was my understanding.
Usually they send us an email or something.
Yeah, that was my understanding, that both judges had interviewed. Okay. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Aye.
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 Motion to pay Dwaynesburg Volunteer Ambulance Corps in the amount of $16,403. Whereas the town of Dwaynesburg Town Board has entered into a contract with the Dwaynesburg Volunteer Ambulance Corps for the year 2023, which contract was approved by the town board and fully signed by the parties. Whereas the town board had some questions concerning staffing retention and payment in the first quarter of 2023 and withheld a portion of the annual payment due in the first quarter of 2023. Whereas upon further review of actual labor staffing expenditures made available to the town board by DVAC, it was determined that actual staffing labor for the quarter, inclusive of the staff that was hired by DVAC to provide adequate coverage, exceeded the initial labor amount budgeted. Now therefore be it resolved that in light of this new information, $16,403 shall be paid to DVAC representing the withheld portion of the contractual amount due for the first quarter of 2023 pursuant to the agreement between the town and DVAC.
I'll second it.
Discussion on this. Last year, late last year, when we approved the 2023 budget, there was a supplemental line that was included with DVAC's budget for additional hours of coverage. My recollection was it was an additional 42 hours of coverage per week. We were informed that the vendor who was going to provide that service was not able to provide the service. Subsequently, we made the decision to withhold a portion with the presumption by the board that these were monies that would not be expended by DVAC because they did not have the coverage. Later, we found out that in discussions looking back, that DVAC hired staff to fill these positions, and their labor expenditures were in fact equal and beyond what had originally been projected. So at this juncture, we are approving this disbursement. And since we've got finance and chair of DVAC there, if there is anything that you would like to add to that, or if we have anybody here on the board, let's see first on the board if we have anybody that has any comments.
I do have one. The first point is the contracted hours weren't worked. That's what we came down. That's why we initially withheld those, because regardless of a subcontractor who didn't provide the service and the personnel weren't there for basically the entire first quarter, those hours that were contracted for were not provided. And that's why the understanding I have, we were not paying that, because why should the town be paying for a service that was not provided? I understand that there were problems with that subcontractor and that they caused problems, which DVAC had to try to solve. But the bottom line was the service that was contracted for was not provided.
Okay,
I just want to say something, irregardless of whether that be true or not, I'm not sure because I'm not there, but I'm sure maybe it is. My thought is it's $16,000 going forward that they can use to put extra people in them ambulances to make sure somebody comes when we get a call. So that's why, I'm going to say now I'm in favor of it, because I want to make sure that you guys are provided as much as we can going forward. Going forward, I want to see people, in them ambulances, whatever it takes. And
I agree with that, but I don't want it to be understood that the taxpayers are an open wallet. There has to be an accountability on the services provided. Medical services are exceptionally important and they're an expectation of the town. But there has to be an expectation that things have to be run efficiently and properly. I understand DVAC got into a bind. I don't believe that that was of their making. But I think it needs to be understood that if labor costs and all costs become too high, the taxpayers cannot bear all of the burden.
That-
We have certain medical response needs, but we don't need to be providing more services than what the call ratio may necessitate.
My perspective was that we made, we held back with the expectation that the labor expenditure would be below the budget. And I'm talking about budget, the additional line item specifically. And they were in a tough position and weren't able to plan. They had to react. And they had to react to fill positions. And in doing so, you can't always operate as efficiently as you would if you had the opportunity to plan in advance. Subsequently, they made the expenditures, and this is nothing more than what we had contractually obligated initially. As to efficiency looking forward, very soon we start the budget planning process for 2024, and we'll have budget proposals from a number of entities within the town. And as we always do, we'll try to work with all those entities to come to the best possible resolve. And if anyone here has anything else.
Well,
now's
I
the
don't
time.
only ask that the DVAC group going forward, investigate other means of providing services. Maybe a different mode using fly cars, as some of the other municipalities do.
That costs money, sir.
I understand that.
So you just got done saying that you were concerned about money.
Everything costs money, but if you have a fly car, you may not need the total number of rigs that you currently have.
We have two.
I understand that. I don't know. That's not my field. I'm
Right.
wondering is take a look at what other options may be available where you could streamline things.
Do we get a chance to,
I was going to ask, yes, because I know we have Mr. Chairman and Finance Director here. If you could clarify, please, the first quarter, because
Sure.
you know, I provided information based upon what I have. You've got more complete information because you deal with it on a daily basis.
no, thank you, Mr. Supervisor. First of all, I prepared a written statement, which I'm going to read portion of. Unfortunately, some of the information that you got, Mr. Santulli, is incorrect.
Okay.
We provided, not only did we provide the minimum services required, we went above and beyond the services that we submitted for the 2023 budget. We paid for 2 crews because REMS, not only did they pull out on the town, and you keep saying DVAC is the town. The ultimate goal of government is to provide public safety. That is your job. We are the avenue and the vehicle to provide that. That's number one. Number two, I stand before you today to let you know that I am fiscally conservative and I run DVAC as a fiscal conservative. In fact, I was here on October 27, 2022. I stood before most of you, one of whom is not here tonight. We gave you the budget for the 2023 calendar year. At that meeting, Councilwoman Grant said, "Are you asking for enough? I don't believe you're asking for enough money." I have that here. I will give it to the clerk for the record. I said, we are doing a budget based on the information we have at the time we have it. We provided that budget based on the fact that REMS was going to provide services with the extended hours. That's how we prepared that budget. At that meeting, I presented the data that was available, and I told the town board and Ms. Grant, we would take as much money as you want to give us, but the data did not support what she wanted to give us, okay? Along with that, I said we would accept the money. Today, all I ask for is that the town board honor the contract that is currently signed and approved. That's all I'm asking for. We have a huge amount of resources. We have volunteers that provided all the service during that time in the first quarter. We did not miss many calls. I'm going to introduce Eric, who is our finance person. We can tell you where every single penny went, where it is, and where we are today. After that, I'd like to turn it over to our captain to give you the call rates of what's going on and show you the improvement that we've done in a short time. I also say before you and say, if you have someone better that can do this job, I am more than willing to step aside. I have no problem stepping aside because I feel that if you are getting the wrong information, I want to make sure that
You're saying that EMT position was filled?
we were not only filled, we were filled with double. That's why we're over our budget.
From January through March?
You did not sign the contract. Mr. Supervisor did not sign the contract until February
But
15th.
like you
How can
said,
I hire
you're
someone
saying
before
I
you
got
sign the contract?
inaccurate
You
information.
did get it accurate, because you said we did not do it for the first quarter. That's your statement. Would you like to read it back? Didn't he say the first
Yes,
quarter?
I did.
Okay, it wasn't the first quarter. We signed a contract, got the signed contract from the town, which we gave the town on in November of 2022.
Okay.
The town didn't sign it until February 15th. Our first hire was February 18th. That's when our first hire was. That doesn't mean
That was the EMT?
that was the EMT. We hired 5 EMTs on the 18th
Okay.
and drivers. Also, that doesn't mean that you weren't covered because we were still paying LEMS to provide the service, and our volunteers took time off their jobs, vacations to cover those expanded shifts.
Well, just understand that when this issue first came up, I was under the understanding we received confirmation.
From who? Who gave you the confirmation that we didn't cover the shifts? We have the data which we will provide.
That was one of the problems I had, that we asked for a meeting so that 2 of the members of the board
Mhm.
could address that, and that meeting never materialized.
I believe I sent you an email that said I'd like to discuss it with you, and you said you didn't want to discuss it. You
No,
wanted to
I
have a meeting.
said.
I have it. Would you like me to read it to you?
Yeah, I believe, didn't
I
I
could.
say that I wanted also Diane Grant? to be
Yeah,
included?
and then I called the supervisor and I said, listen, we have given you reports, quarterly reports. We've done everything according to the contract and then some. As a matter of fact, Mr. Santulli, you came over and you met with us
I
and you
did.
said we did a great job, and what a
I
wonderful
believe you
job.
are doing a great job.
Well, it doesn't
And
sound like it.
Well, no, and that's where we are, is because someone questioned and was trying to get answers to a question
Mhm.
that automatically makes me an antagonist.
I didn't say you were an
That's
antagonist.
the impression you were presenting.
I'm presenting the fact that you're getting wrong information. And I don't know why, where you're getting that
And that's,
information. And I asked you,
we
where's it
reached
coming
out to try to get the information because
from?
we've been advised that we're supposed to have 2 of the board members present when we're meeting with the groups. That's why we reached out and said, want to meet with you because I had that information. I wanted to hear from you prior to this evening.
We have
And
all
when-
kinds of information we'll give you tonight, and then you can make a
Well, that's nice,
educated
but
decision.
I'm going to say that I believe you contributed to the misunderstanding when I asked to meet.
Well, then I
with you guys,
apologize
and you
for that.
didn't.
Well,
So
you know,
all I'm saying
I
is,
do 30 hours of volunteer work just for DVAC.
I am not questioning. I know you put in a lot of time. I know everybody here does. Okay,
You know how many meetings I go to a night for
I
community,
can
for
believe
this
it.
county?
And I
for this
understand
town?
public safety. I spent 30 years on police force. I'm still doing investigations. I understand public safety.
Great, I'm glad you do.
And then I also understand what some of my brethren that I used to work with are going through in Cobblestone right now. Because that's the opposite side of what happens
When you
when,
don't have public safety.
and when you don't have the money to pay for it, at least that's what they're saying.
Volunteerism, as I discussed in 2022, is almost over and non-existent.
And I'm
That's
not
why we
gonna
moved to
disagree with
payment.
you, and I'm taking the fault of that on our state.
No, you're absolutely right.
Because the burdens that the state has put on you in training and time is just beyond ridiculous.
I do want to let Mr. Unser answer those questions that you have. We can account for every single penny, and I never have a problem with that whatsoever.
I will stand and I will apologize if that EMT item that I was under the impression that was the additional money that was in the budget was billed. Because our understanding was it was gonna be there January.
Well, it couldn't be January because we didn't have a
We
contract.
didn't have a contract, but the hiring you said was February, he started working
The contract was signed February 12th. We hired on the 15th.
and he started working.
We started working immediately. We started the training process immediately. You can't just hire somebody and put them in a rig,
Understood.
no matter how much service they've done elsewhere. They gotta know our rig. And I'm gonna turn that over to our captain once he gets an opportunity, but I'd like Mr. Unser give you what's going on.
Let me give you a background of DVAC. I've been there a little over 14 months. Feels like 14 years. The background is, this is what happened since January 22nd and January 23. This is a reflection of how this department was run by your missing board member, okay? The chairman owns the system, just like Mr. Wenzel. He is the point of contact. I'm not pointing out. But no, I got the statement.
The board as a whole.
Yeah, we've got a disclaimer on the bottom
Okay,
of the
that's fine.
privilege of the floor.
That's fine, but anyway, this is the status we took over January. When Bob became the chairman, he talked to me. He knows my professional, what my professional career is. He inquired if I would consider assisting him with the financial aspects of these. I possess an extensive fiscal and operational experience securing as a 30-year hospital administrator and vice president of operations and finance. So this stuff is second nature to me. First order of business was to review the financial practices where I identified areas of opportunity for improvement. A major enhancement was developing a cost center line item budget, which was required by the contract, utilizing all available information for 2021 and backing into it the best that I could. Reviewing the contract under provisions of the 2022 contract, paragraph 9.1.4, the umbrella, not to be less than $10 million. The policy that we had in effect at the time, and it goes back to January 1st, 2020, was only for $1 million, a negative variance of $9 million. That got corrected. Okay, so it goes 2 years. DVAC encountered identifying an accounting firm that would do an audit. We finally got West Company from Gloverville, and I believe that's the firm you folks work with.
That is
And you got us, you helped us get that because no one wanted to touch it. The accounting firm couldn't identify where either the 21, if the 21 taxes had been submitted. The accounting firm then had to file an extension in the fall of 2022. And then I got the pleasure of rebuilding 2021 taxes that took a month. There's no evidence that could be identified that the monthly bank statements were ever reconciled. We fixed that in June. Under the provisions of paragraph 4-1, up to 330,173.90 of the 238,771, 711 paid by the town, and remaining $92,002.90 funds from third-party billing. Those are the only two deposits that go into account, operational account 1741. That's the only two resources. That's the only thing we take checks out of to pay and operate. The only funds that, like I said, I reviewed bank statements for the period January through September was conducted by the Finance Committee, utilizing a recently created policy and procedure with there were none. In October, the result of our review, $87,000 was identified and transferred from the operational account into the correct account. Budget development for 2023. Specific cost centers were developed and managed by the following people. Building and grounds, Bob Simpson. He developed his budget, we helped him, we worked together. So anything to do with buildings and grounds, he's the one. Anything that's medical related is the capital. Utilities, insurance, professional fees, etc., is our chairman. We conducted individual work sessions. Individual cost centers were developed by each of the gentlemen noted above. And the instances of medical related cost centers was developed by the leadership team with input from their medical staff. With the budget development, the chairman Katita developed the Dwayne for a volunteer annual budget proposal. And then we had a meeting with Mr. Wenzel on November 22nd. Okay, effective November 22nd, we began using QuickBooks. As a cognizant of any budget is the best effort to identify all possible scenarios. However, there's always that unexpected expense. The variance needs to be found within the existing budget. Okay. Let's see. Here's the budget on the well, let me skip to the yep, that's where I am right now. The staffing question. We agreed that our vendor would staff Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. with 2 hybrid partners. Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. to midnight, a hybrid partner and a DVAC driver. Saturday and Sunday, 6 a.m. to midnight, BLS, hybrid and a DVAC driver. The estimated cost was $227,000. That is what we use for the budget. Okay. Let's see, how did we manage the budget? Number arrived at? The total budget number of $227,929 was divided by 12 months, $18,999 each month, with the exception of February, which is $18,984. DVAC entered an agreement with Kena Staffing after review approval by our attorney, Hannigan Law Firm, on December 14th. This actually began the process for posting EMTs and drivers. Being that the contract wasn't signed until February, no hiring could occur. The number of employees hired within 3 days of the contract being signed was 6, and the 7th on February 20th. Total number of employees hired within 30 days of the contract being signed was 11, and the total to date right now we have 20 staff. I'm going to go over the budget. Quarter 1. In January, the budget was $18,995. The actual, this is all verified against QuickBooks. The actual was paid to our vendor, $5,571.50. Positive variance of $13,423. February $18,984. And the budget, or the actual was $10,824. Positive variance of $8,160. March, we spent $39,000 to a budget of $899, negative variance of $21,112.
Okay, 1 second. So, Mr. Santulli, that's where we paid. We had staff. So for you to get the information that we didn't have staff, it wasn't our staff, it was REM staff. The extra hours were totally filled by our volunteers. That's when we started. So
Yeah, because my understanding is there was a level of service that was contracted years prior.
Yep.
And then there was additional items
that's correct.
that were going to be put on.
Yep. And that's, so what we did, because we couldn't hire until the contract was signed,
Okay.
we put
I'll
on,
let you know, I was going by the contract initiation date is January 1.
It was,
would you
a-
hire somebody, I mean, you have an attorney here. I can't hire
I
somebody who
understand.
hasn't signed.
I'm letting you know.
Yep.
My perspective was the
January
contract went into effect
So,
January
it was
1.
approved, and it was approved by the board in December. There were a few
On
minor,
December 31st, Pam.
that's correct. They said December 2022
Right.
was when the contract was approved by the board. And Tim had a few typos and other things. And I think next year what we're gonna do to make sure that we don't have this delay, rather than go back and forth, is just all get in a room, go through the document. Once we're all done with it, we're done with it.
Right.
Because, there was really no reason why it couldn't have been signed sooner, because the changes that were made were just like typos.
yeah, so
Yeah,
we were specifically told by our attorney, do not do any hiring until we get a signed contract.
well, it
So,
would have been good if Tim had called me, 'cause I could have allayed the fears. It had already been approved. And it was budgeted for in the
well, we
budget.
also have a signed contract that we didn't get the budget money for, so. I've been budgeted for it. I mean, I did not want to go above and beyond
I
my,
think- Yeah,
my scope of authority. It's very, very expensive hiring not only staff,
right,
but the backup client, we're paying a company.
but
To
we
manage it.
can deal with the issue of
Right.
getting everybody in a room and getting it
Absolutely.
signed at once. That's easy. But your expectation was
And
reasonable.
that was the
Yeah,
point I want to make.
yeah,
My expectation was on January 1. Those extra budgeted personnel items
Yep.
are going to be there.
So
And
even,
that's
yeah,
why
I
it
get it.
didn't happen.
Yep. And it
You're
did.
looking
You're
at it
absolutely
through
right.
you, as part of your organization, made a decision because you didn't have the finalized budget,
Right,
even though we approved it. Your perspective was, we're not going to hire anybody until we have that.
that's correct.
So that was 6 weeks after our expectation that somebody was going to be
That's
on
correct.
board. And then there was,
Yeah, but
the
this
hiring.
you gotta understand my point
But-
too. I have an expectation that you're gonna follow a contract that was signed. You held 17,000. So I had to be
Well,
cautious.
We had actually
You know
talked
what I
to council about that,
Mhm.
and because that item was not filled for there. There was two options. My understanding was, one is we could withhold the money at that point,
Mhm.
because that item wasn't filled from January 1. Or the other one was, we deduct it from next year's budget. Is that correct?
it wa- the thing that was discussed between me and the attorney for the DVAC was the issue of truing up at the end of the year.
At the end of the year.
Yes,
That's right.
that's what I recall.
So not taking it. But anyways,
Yeah.
I want to make sure that you understand.
Right.
You,
So-
the town was covered. The
Right.
town was absolutely
But
100% covered.
what I'm seeing here is a difference of perspective. My perspective was the contract was in effect on January 1,
Yeah, and I.
and you looked at it from the perspective that we went ahead after we got the approval, which was 6+ weeks later. So,
You have an attorney that you followed. We have an attorney we followed. Said,
Okay.
don't hire anybody until you have a.
so
signed
that,
contract.
I want you to understand.
I get it.
That
Yeah, this is
that-
why it's good that we're having this conversation and I appreciate it.
From
But
my
at least you know.
from my perspective, I wasn't necessarily given inaccurate information. It's the perspective that we were operating from.
No. The inaccurate information that you got is that it wasn't filled and covered. All of those areas were covered. Peter, could you just maybe give some numbers of where we were, where we are, and what we're doing?
Sure. I'm Peter Brody, I'm the captain of the Yeoman's Guard, and I live at 1019 Thousand Acres Road. Mailing address is to Lansing. Starting in January, knowing that operating with presumption, we know the contract was approved on the 31st, not executed, not fully signed and executed until February. The volunteer leadership made it a solid effort to try and fill as many of those vacancies as possible with volunteers. And to be able to make sure that we were backfilling and preparing for the hiring once the contract was executed. I agree with the chairman. My background is also contracting at the state, and if I don't have a contract, I don't have anything, regardless whether it's in the state budget or not. So we agreed on that part, and we followed our attorney's advice. So you earlier talked, Mr. Santulli, about efficiency, in response. In January of 2022, we had, the Corps had 29 calls and missed 3 for a missed percentage of 10.34. In January of 2023, we had 40 and we missed 3. The volume went up by 11. We missed the same number, but the percentage is down. By the end of the 6 months, with the staff that we've had on, we haven't had a missed call since May 4th. And most of those missed calls are secondary responses, where the primary ambulance is out on a call and we don't have a crew to fill the second one. So right now, so far at the end of June in 2022, there have been 204 dispatches for the ambulance in that 6-month period, and we missed 18.14% of those. At the end of June in 2023, we had 244, a 20% increase. And we've missed only 5.33 for a total of 13 calls over that 6-month period. In the last month and a half, we haven't missed anything. And a lot of that is how we've taken the data that we've had and the response issues, the responses that we've had, and we look to fill the slots for whenever we make sure that the town is receiving the coverage. There have been nights that I filled in for an employee, who either called in or was not available for whatever reason. And there have been times that employees have filled in for us. So we don't operate under a strict schedule to that regard. We have a plan. And each and every week we work the plan to make sure that we provide the maximum coverage we can for the town with the funding that we have. So we do work to make it much more efficient than we have. 244 calls is a significant increase over the previous year. We're on track to be near to 500 calls, where this organization has not been near 500 calls since 2015, 2016 in that area, when it was fully staffed by volunteers.
You haven't any idea what is pushing the increase? Because I don't think our population is really.
Population is older.
Population is
Mostly
older,
that.
and as we come closer to people's receiving their eternal reward, we're transporting them more. So as someone is closer to their death, we may see them 5, 6, 8 times over a 2-month period. And you watch the patient become progressively worse. There has been, I'd have to go back and look at the data for you, but there have been some more interesting car wrecks. And by interesting, I say more complicated and more involved. We had a significant event 3 weeks ago.
What I'm trying to get at is there more, classification A or B responses rather than the C, D, or E's that you're going to?
We're seeing a decent combination of things, but we also have some chronic recurring guests who maintain well in town, and they just have periods where they call us more.
Okay.
And some of it is what the dispatchers told us. and what
Yeah,
you find.
and going through the dispatcher, is there a chance some of them could be
My grandmother's
the
not
aides moved to
breathing.
the Medicare transports or
Right.
rather than tying up an ambulance crew for.
And there are times that we spend
Just
more time on
right.
the wall at a receiving hospital. Most of the hospitals are addressing that issue. But there are times we stand on the wall waiting to turn the patient care over as well. That doesn't happen as much. But a significant trend over the last 6 months, going back into last year as well, has been the unavailability of behavioral health or psychiatric beds in emergency departments. There have been times we've been
the
notified.
lack thereof.
Right, exactly. There are 3 primary facilities in this region, in the capital region, that receive psychiatric patients. Ellis Hospital on Knott Street is one of them. Ellis, Albany, Med, and St. Samaritan are the top 3. St. Peter's receives some, but they generally get transferred. And we go to St. Mary's in Amsterdam with some. But just in the last 48 hours alone, all 3 of those hospitals were on psych diversion. Diversion is a suggestion, not a mandate. As soon as we're on the grounds of that particular hospital, under the EMTALA legislation, the hospital has 0 choice but to accept that patient. That doesn't mean that they accept that patient, to use your word again, efficiently. So we're stuck with them on the stretcher for a while.
I was there. I used to have to do the mental health custody arrest, and
Mhm.
I would have to sit there,
Mhm.
waiting for the bed.
Mhm. And that happens with medical beds as well. The waiting room at Alice's emergency department is frequently overflowing. And we bring many patients who otherwise wouldn't necessarily have a ride to the hospital, but have a need to be there to the waiting room.
Peter, one of the other things I want to point out to the board, what I've authorized as the chairman is that when we do not have, we have scheduling now. Hayden does all our scheduling. If we find a blank spot in a shift that's not covered by pay employees, I have them put it up. There's no way while I'm in charge as I'm going to allow this town to be not covered by at least one ambulance. So when we have volunteers out on vacation with their families, can't respond, can't sign up, I pay for that. We pay for that. I've authorized them to fill those slots with paid staff. Again, I am not gonna, as long as I'm the chairperson, I am not gonna let the town go without coverage because we don't have a volunteer available. So some of the uptick in the cost is because of that. It's just something I did and I'll take the blame for it. It is something I'm doing. I have to do it. It's something I promised. So I'm not gonna allow, again, I'm not gonna allow the residents of the town to not be serviced because we don't have a volunteer available.
We've also been answering mutual aid calls. Our mutual aid, I have Esperance Ambulance, just right with their contract says, covers the western portion of the town of Waynesburg, from Gage Road to the county line. The area is answered by Burnsville Fire as BOS first response, as well as where Esperance Fire and ambulance cover part of it, and then Esperance Fire covers first response, and the part that from Youngs and Sheldon out to the county line. If Esperance is unable to field a crew after their second set of tones, we are called. If they still don't have a crew by the third set of tones, usually we're already on the way. So we're answering those, and there have been multiple times we've been called into the town of Rotterdam as far as Carmen Road, all the way over by Carmen Fire and Hamburg Road over there, answering EMS calls for Rotterdam as well. The volume of people calling 911 has increased back to a pre-COVID. Some pre-COVID volumes.
Well, all you hear from people is nobody wants to go to emergency room anymore because I hear that from people all the time. Call an ambulance because you go
They
spend
think they
7,
can
8,
quick.
10 hours at the
Right.
emergency room. So I hear that from people all the time that
And
we just
it's-
call an ambulance.
You know, Ricky, it's such a farce because what happens is people don't realize it. And one of the things I want to let everybody know is the first thing we did when we hired is we put it out to town employees first. We went to every single fire department first and gave their EMTs an opportunity. It's their taxes that are paying for it. So we had meetings with every single fire chief to go to their firehouses and say, does your EMTs want to work some jobs? We did get a couple of them. A lot of them came back to us and said, no, because when we go to a house, when you guys come, we're done. Our average call is 3 hours. It's 20 minutes with the patient, sitting there in the hospital for an hour and a half. They come back and clean the rig from top to bottom after each and every call because it has to be disinfected. And then they spend an hour and a half filling out charts. So the EMTs in town that are with the firefighters, they don't want to give up 4 hours of their night for one call. Our paid staff do, and our volunteers, we could not do it without the volunteers that we have. It amazes me, and I've only been involved for a year and a half. We have people in this that have been here, been around for years and years, and I can defer to them and you and where we've been and where we've come to. I mean,
drove that ambulance for 15 years.
so some of the other things real quick before you vote, you said we should be more efficient. Eric, years ago, there was a thing called community resident. We were not billing those community residents to the tune of $98,000 we were missing. Eric put in place, we came to the town board and said, what are we doing? Why is this? The town board said, we have no idea. So we stopped doing that. We now charge because everyone has insurance. The problem that we found is it's called something called a patient bill. When we bring you to the hospital, the check goes to you. instead of to us or to our vendor, our third-party vendor. Eric has put together where he writes the community member. We've hired Janice as our office manager. We write a letter to them, explain that the money that they got is not theirs. It should come back to us. We've gotten back a lot of money, Eric, right, on that.
We've closed funding claims.
I just want to respond to something there. If I got this right, I don't know if anybody remembers this. We did talk about billing all the people,
Yeah,
but I think we also talked about if somebody doesn't have insurance or can't pay for it, that they wouldn't have to pay for it.
that's correct. And we don't do that. And we still don't do that.
Okay.
But in today's day and age, everybody has insurance to the point of Medicaid or Medicare.
I just want to make sure that, you know, that we're on the same page about that.
Yeah.
If somebody doesn't have insurance and they,
If they're
for some reason
desperate,
they
they're
can't
not
pay
gonna-
for it, that they don't have to.
You're absolutely
But
right. and we don't do
you
that.
can't bill directly to the insurance carriers? Because
We do.
We do, but current law does not require that the insurance carriers pay the ambulance companies directly without a contract. The legislature this year, oh yes. So United Healthcare is an example, which covers, as the Empire Plan's major medical component, which covers the ambulance, it's Medicare Part B stuff. Has issued checks to patients for years. Blue Shield of Northeastern New York paid on behalf of an indigent individual to his proxy for years, to the tune of $4,000 to $5,000 that the proxy cashed and kept the money
Mhm.
and refused to pay the bill until we sent him to collection.
Let's just be careful to keep this neutral.
No, but we're explaining how the payments were going.
No, I understand. I understand.
So, but the legislature passed a law requiring that insurance companies pay ambulances directly versus paying the patients.
So being proactive, Eric has worked with our office manager. Now we're writing letters. Future discussion with the board will be, what do you want us to do after they say no? And that's for another discussion, but I want you to think about it. Do you want us to bring them to collection? And it's people that have been paid that are just holding their checks. We would never, ever go after anybody that does not have payment or the ability to pay. It's after we verify that they got the check, it was issued to them, it's called bill patient, and we try to get it back. I think there's several in the wings right now, so I've asked Eric not to pursue it until we get what the town board wants.
Okay.
So that'll be for future discussion. But again, I hope we answered any of your questions. I don't know if there's anyone else to speak. But
I'd like to add a little bit more
yeah, absolutely.
briefly, which will please them to know, because I've never briefed at a membership meeting. One other thing, we haven't just, continued our service. We've expanded our capabilities. 15 years ago, we used to use these god awful Furno stretchers. There was one person on each side of the stretcher, lifted up and put it in the ambulance. When I worked at Mohawk, that's what we had. Now we invested in stretchers, and these stretchers do 98% of the work for you. They will take a bariatric patient that weighs 550 pounds, grown a little, but it lifts and puts the patient in the back of the ambulance. And we're not busting the backs of either our employees, our hybrid partners, or our volunteers to be able to do it.
those ones that break down to a chair too.
These don't, but there are that do. We have separate chairs that we're able to move people. We have
That's always our
actually-
problem is getting down the damn stairwells.
Oh, yes, no, our stair chairs have, what is that word? Tracks, that they go. Have power tracks, thank you. It's a power track. Because, and it helps guide the patient down the stairs. You can
So you're
literally
not
do it.
putting out as many backs.
Right. And without digging up their stairwell either. And we also invested in cardiac monitors. So that a patient having chest pain or an incident that may have a cardiac related cause. We can perform a 12-lead EKG on the scene, send it to a doctor, get an interpretation while we're moving closer to the hospital. Within a year of having this, a patient went into cardiac arrest right in front of us, having a massive MI. We reversed it and he was mowing his lawn a week ago. He's still alive 2 years later. So we don't just continue to respond, we continue to develop our training and our skills and our capabilities.
We've also worked with the entire community, emergency services community in Dwaynesburg. We have recently bulk purchased AEDs for all of our fire departments. We were able to get a huge discount from buying all of them. And they're being, they just were delivered and we're getting ready to hand those out to those agencies. They will pay us and we will pay the bill. But we were able to knock off a huge amount of money by bulk purchasing. I don't know how many you bought, but
I don't know the number, I think the total order was $20,000.
and we were able to save a lot of money that they didn't go out and purchase them themselves. So as far as efficiency, we're looking at every single angle, and we put a lot of time, effort into this. And I didn't mean to get so excited before, but
It's interesting.
we're putting a shit ton of time into this.
And when I'm talking efficiency, I spoke earlier to the board in this, I'm worried about the next few years.
So am I, because we gotta find somebody to take this over.
Well, I'm worried about fundings. Because things look like it's gonna start getting really thin.
Well,
So,
I will tell you, I think that this community, when they realized what they were getting, they were keeping a hometown, homegrown emergency service that they have their finger on, the pulse. They can come over, they can come through we had an open house with people come through. We're very community orientated. We're looking to do, ice cream dinners and all kinds of things, ice cream socials. We're looking to do a movie night. When they realize that that's what they have in town and they don't have to wait for REMS to come up, I'm sorry, I'm gonna be neutral, for another agency to come up the hill 20 minutes away. I think they're very happy about it. And I don't think you're gonna hear much of a major problem. But I really thank you guys for listening to us and at least letting us get our side of the story out so you know exactly what you're voting on. And I'd invite everyone here in this room to come over. We're there 24 hours a day. We've opened our core up to the state troopers and to the sheriff's office. They all have a code, so they could stop in, use the bathroom, get something to drink. We had a state trooper shooting. They were almost going to use us as a command post. I had direct contact with the officers on the scene. I was there. We set up a command post if they needed it. So we are not just surviving, we are thriving. Absolutely. If you'd like to say something.
We sent out a fundraiser a couple of weeks ago. The response has been magnanimous. I've taken care of this fundraiser several years, and I go to the post office every morning and there's a stack of responses. It just blows my mind. I don't have the dollar amount at this point, but at our next meeting, I will have it.
Community members are very, very happy with what's
I
going on.
know, little yellow ones.
Yeah.
We're looking for yours.
You already got that. Actually, you've already passed that check.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Again, thank you for listening to us.
But it's magnet, it just blew me away. The response has been. And people, they recognize that they need us there. I drove that ambulance for 15 years.
First time I was here on the board, before I was a member, I stood back up there, a certain, Harry Potter, the name that won't be mentioned, was going on. And my statement then was, I wrote to it, we're better off with a community-based response.
Oh, that was you.
That was me. I was standing right behind
See,
them.
I didn't recognize you from the back. I only used to see you from the.
And I abide by that. My only concern is that,
No, we get it.
the contract
Yep,
and the
we get it.
expectations,
We get it.
which is why I wish we could have met sooner.
Yep.
But it's always good to have it opened up so everybody can voice it and everybody can hear it.
We're actually starting budget talks already. We handed our budgets out to our individuals. And we'll be coming to the town in September.
And somebody's already forewarned us that we've got to start working on doing our
It
work.
goes quick.
We
So
have,
we will be in front of you in September to give you a proposal. And we'll have the dollars and the actual data and background to support what we have.
very good. Very good. Well, I want to thank you for being here for the clarification because none of us, myself included, had the information that you've provided, and it's very beneficial.
And before you guys go forward, I want to just introduce our paid crew. These people, they're awesome. And our management staff, which are right here in front of you, couldn't do it without the management staff. And we thank you guys very much for what you do. So. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Got it? Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Okay, did we,
One other thing, fly car issue. We are doing a fly car. Each one of these people, we have bought bags for each one of their own personal cars.
Okay.
I can't come to you guys and say I need.
I'm
a
not
fly-
saying I think you should do it. I'm saying
We are already working on it, just so you know.
just,
We have bought bought emergency bags for each of their cars. And I have them clocking when they go with their own personal vehicle, so that I can come back and make an educated decision. Out of X amount of calls, this is how many, he's doing a fly right now, he has his car packed. So just.
Sorry, we're reading the message.
So we are looking into that, but I don't want to come until I have the data.
I think we had a
Okay.
motion and now vote.
do we have a
did
second?
we have a second?
I think we had a second.
I second.
We do have a second?
You read it.
Yep.
Okay, okay. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Councilmember.
Aye.
Councilmember Cotton.
Aye.
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 Motion to appoint, probably I messed this up,
Lorelei.
Lorelei Benson as a substitute park counselor for the 2023 park program season.
Discussion on this, as you know, we had hired staff.
I'll
for-
second it.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Rick.
Yeah.
Discussion on this is that we had hired staff for the summer park program. And with vacation time and what have you, some of the counselors that are there to help were not going to be available at certain time slots. So this Lorelei is an additional person to fill in as a counselor. Clerk call the roll, please.
Councilmember Locke.
Aye.
Councilmember Cotton.
Aye.
Stewart.
Aye.
Supervisor Wilt.
Aye. Before we go to privilege of the floor, anybody have anything else? Okay. Before we go to Zoom, is there anyone here with us who would like to address the board on anything tonight?
Took enough of your time, thank you.
Do you have anyone on Zoom that would like to? No.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Clerk call the roll, please.
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you very much. We'll be back at it in 2 more weeks.